County principals wanted to make a difference during the pandemic. They started Create and Educate LLC to help educators and parents during some tough times. They're focusing on literacy and leadership. CN2's R.E.A.L.L. Jackson has more on how they're helping the community.
Create and Educate, we are a consulting firm that works with educators as well as entrepreneurs. So with the side where we're working with educators, we offer professional development on literacy as well as implicit bias. We work with leaders and leadership teams to help improve schools.
They've been surviving pandemic education by offering tips for school leaders, teachers, and parents.
We really want to see kids through the trajectory, graduating from high school, ready to go to college or to start a career or to go into the military.
Create and Educate has multiple community partners in the area that read books to children weekly, discuss literature, and express their support for the education system. Recently, the owners were featured for Amazon's #1 best-selling book entitled Women Who Lead in Education.
And so we are super, super excited because we're amongst a family of women leaders who are absolutely extraordinary. So it's an honor to have been asked to participate. And then even more of an honor now that the book has gone on sale and it became a #1 bestseller. So you don't have to be a school leader to have leadership qualities.
Collectively, both Tammy Taylor, principal of Great Falls Elementary, and Dr. Sheka Houston, principal of Chester Middle School, have 40 years of service in education. They have learned the need in their community, and they plan to
serve all children in all communities. And one of the things that we enlighten people about in our professional development with literacy is that sometimes it's hard for children to connect to text because they don't see themselves in text. Providing that culturally relevant literature for students, and that's not just African American students, that's all students. Every student at every school should be able to see themselves in a book, in a text, to be able to connect with it.
Surviving pandemic education together in Chester, R.E.A.L.L. Jackson, CN2 News.
Again, their goal is to help connect educators, parents, community members, and authors each week to help better navigate the pandemic. To learn more about Create and Educate LLC, simply follow them on Facebook or at their website at createandeducate.com.
Great morning, everyone. Good morning, Tammy.
Good morning, Sheka. Hello, everybody. Happy Saturday.
Yes, happy Saturday. And we are super excited. Really enjoyed Principal Hurt this morning. He is always on fire. And we're looking forward to jumping on with him this morning as well with Principal Kafele. If you haven't seen the announcement, we will be on the Fantastic Four Talking Leadership on the virtual AP Leadership Academy this morning. So we'll be jumping off a little early because we have to log on with Principal Kafele and the group. So we're going to finish up what we started last week, the salvation of the Africana child through the Africana Womanism paradigm. If you're logging on for the first time, I'm Dr. Sheka Houston, and my trustmate in education, Dr. Tammy Taylor, and we are committed to helping leaders, educators, and parents. We would like to make sure that that support is provided, the support that we didn't receive as educational leaders, to make sure that we're changing the trajectory of children's lives, not just in our community, but as far as our span can reach. So if you would like to work with us, we coach aspiring leaders, principals, assistant principals, and just really help you to hone and cultivate your craft to make sure that your school is getting the growth and the improvement that you need to see for your students. So Tammy's going to recap where we left off with last week, or what we did last week, and then we'll get started with the new paradigm principles. And you might even want to review what Africana Womanism is, and that it's not just for women, because that's a common misconception.
It is sometimes a huge misconception, because we are always looking for um, culturally relevant opportunities for us to come together as a family. And the Africana Womanism paradigm is one that is family centered and has identified 18 characteristics that Dr. Clenora Hudson Weems, who is the progenitor of that paradigm, says all Africana women possess to some degree. And once we go through those, you'll understand exactly why. And before I review those first two, I have to say, last Saturday, we were able to sit in sessions with Principal Hurt at SCAPC, and he, as always, did a phenomenal job. So we want to just shout out Principal Hurt for his amazing work down in South Carolina last weekend. And we got to hang out with him a little bit afterwards. So we were really excited to have that opportunity. And we want to say thank you to all of those folks who came to support us for each of the 3 sessions that we had. That turned out to be really, really good sessions. So thank you. And thank you for the SCAPC team having us down there to be able to speak our truth about the things that are of passion to us. So with that said, we're going to just recap the 2 characteristics that we started with last week were self-naming and self-defining. And I talked with you just a little bit about why that was so important, because we want to make sure that we are indeed helping our students and even our staff, like each other, to be able to know the names that we want to be called by, to know who we are. And Nomo is an African concept that is the proper naming of a thing, because the concept of Nomo says that until a thing is properly named, it doesn't exist. So for people to see us and to know that we exist, we have to name ourselves and define ourselves as what we're going to answer to. And the flip side of that is this: don't answer to anything that you choose not to be. So you only answer to what you choose to be called. And that's something that's incredibly important.
And just to add to what you're saying, Tammy, that's why the cultural relevant teaching is also so important, because a lot of times it's hard for people to identify who they are when they don't know what they came from, they don't know their history, and there's just a lot of, false teaching
Mhm.
about what makes up that identity, and also those false images that people associate themselves with. So making sure that we're educating our children on that, not just in schools but at home, is so important.
And especially at home, because at school, you may not be given the proper tools to name yourself by our standard, because when you are operating under the rules of the dominant culture, that doesn't always match exactly who you are. So we have to instill in our children who they are, who they represent, what they represent, before we even ever send them to school, so that they go there knowing that they too define themselves and who they choose to be called.
Exactly. And you did the first two?
Yes.
Okay. So the third characteristic is being family centered. And this is defined as the principle of family centrality places an emphasis on the entire Black family unit. The success of the Black community as a whole leads to the fourth characteristic, which is wholeness. And this references the Africana community provides a sense of wholeness so that the entire community may survive as a whole. And, we say a lot that it takes a village, this is where that premise comes from, because we are, as a people, really family centered. Just when I attended these conferences that I've been at the last 2 weeks, being a mom, I can't, just leave my children with anybody. So my mom, is the person when my husband and I are working or when we're away, who she's retired. So we're able to tap into our village for that help. And that, is tremendous. I wouldn't be able to do the things that I do without her help and without that family centeredness, being able to count on her to still make sure things are going when I'm not here with the girls.
Which is so important. And that fourth characteristic, as Sheka alluded to, is wholeness. And the whole of the Africana community isn't overshadowed by us vying for individual accolades or accomplishments. Like, we're there to promote one another, and we're there to celebrate one another. We're there to encourage one another to be great. And
Mm-hmm.
the more that you um, promote each other, and the more that you support one another, it brings strength and wholeness to that family centrality that Sheka was just talking about, because we can't go it alone. Like, we
Right.
are that village that she mentioned. We are the community. The community is who we are. I grew up on Pilgrim Road in Wilkesburg, and from the top of the road to the church, because it's a road that is a semicircle, from the top of the road to the church, like, my mom could trust that wherever I was in that community, somebody was looking out for me, and somebody was looking out to make sure that I was representing my part of the village the way that I was supposed to. So
Mm-hmm.
that's something that we need to make sure that we don't lose sight of. And another thing about wholeness that I think is really important and very relevant to the concept of Africana womanism is wholeness also represents, for in the arena of defining who we are as women, it represents the fact that I am 100% okay with who I am. I am me, and I don't need to be validated by anybody. Like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
have to be endorsed to be
Mm-hmm.
who I am, because I am who I am. And that goes back to the fact that I've already known how to define who I am. I named myself. So yeah, I'm free to be me, and I'm okay without any validation from anybody.
And I really love that when First Lady Michelle Obama when they were in office, and she defined herself as mom in chief, and her mom would be with them a lot because her responsibilities required her to be away as well. But her mom was there to step up to the plate. So I love that she was her authentic self, in that she stayed true to that principle that really resonates a lot with our culture, that we do rely on our family unit, and we're family centered for us to be able to do a lot of things that we do. And my mom was the same way. My grandmother was with us a whole lot. And when we're talking about this, and we have to get off because we have 1 minute to jump on with Principal Kafele now, I do want to bring up the statue that people have been criticizing, and the artist and the sculptor, because I put on my page the picture where that he identified with in order to make the sculpture. And I think as a people, we're so just sometimes quick to ridicule each other. But after I saw the picture, I was able to identify where he was going with his sculpture, and I do like the sculpture. So, as a community, we need to lift as we climb. We don't have to always be negative about things, or if you didn't see something a certain way, sometimes it's not necessary to make a public comment. Sometimes we got to wait for more information, because he is a Black man that made the sculpture. And when you see the picture, Mr. Ratchford, because I know how close-minded you are with the white shoes and the ushers, it does make a whole lot of sense. So please keep an open mind, and let's stop criticizing the artist. But it is time for us to jump on with Principal Kafele, and we hope that you all tune in with us. We are excited and honored to be a part of the virtual AP Leadership Academy and be contributors.
Very humbled. I actually told Sheka that I was going to not log on. I'm just going to be here to listen and take notes today. And she said, okay, try to and see what Principal Kafele says.
Exactly. We'll have a fit.
So not going to do that.
We will see you next on Principal Kafele's broadcast. We're going to jump off early so we can jump on with him. Thank you all.
Yes, guys. Have a great rest of your weekend.
And we will finish this. We're going to continue.